Check this out.
What on earth?
It's a cow tongue, dude.
That's a tri-tip.
Are you a geometry professor now? Who cares what shape it is?
It literally comes off the back of the cow, dude. And I made cow tongue on this channel already.
You expect me to know that how? You expect anyone to know anything you make on this channel ever? This thing better be good.
You're not getting any.
I believe I've now smoked the big four of American barbecue things, that being brisket, pork ribs, pulled pork, and beef ribs. I feel like I've gained a little bit of experience in these couple of years and I feel more comfortable now. I can start doing more miscellaneous stuff like this tri-tip, for instance. I think it's a less common cut of beef. It comes off the back, the sirloin area. It comes out really well when smoked. It's super juicy and it eats like a steak. That being said, you could smoke this like a brisket and bring it up to like 205 degrees Fahrenheit, but that takes a lot longer. I'll show you what I did here. It's very simple. I just started with 2 of these tri-tips. I got these at Costco because I can't find them anywhere else at the moment, but they're very cost effective. First thing I'm doing is just getting a carving knife and cutting off this silver skin on the back. They both have quite a bit that will be tough to chew through, so take the moment to trim them up. I have these on a wire rack because I'm going to treat them like I do my steak and dry brine them with seasoning overnight. Especially since these are thick, we're going to want the salt to penetrate through the middle so the flavor is even throughout. I'm getting generous amounts of salt on them and then just following with freshly ground black pepper. That's really all a good steak needs in my opinion. I wouldn't do a rub on these unless I was making them like a brisket. Although a good idea for this, and I might do it next time, is some Montreal steak seasoning. I think that would go really well with these. Instead, I'm going to use this dashida powder, which is beef stock powder. I bought this in Korea, but any powdered bouillon would work. It's just super concentrated beef flavor, so it's going to super emphasize the beef flavor on the outside of the steak. I'm getting a little bit of this packet on both sides of the tri-tip and just pressing all this seasoning in. You could definitely stick these on the smoker right away. If you're doing that, I would do a binder like mustard or oil first before the seasoning. But I usually give myself the time to stick these in the fridge and dry brine them overnight so the seasoning can penetrate like I said. The next day, I'm going to prep my Big Joe charcoal smoker for double indirect cooking. So I'm just going to fill the bottom with some charcoal briquettes and use my blowtorch to light them. You could also use a chimney, but that usually takes 25 to 30 minutes, whereas this blowtorch takes about 5 minutes. Then I'm adding a few chunks of oak wood, which I've really been loving for all smoked meats. I'm adding some cherry chips for fun as well. Now I close that up with the vents open and let that heat soak for about 10 minutes. Then I'll come back and build my cooking station, starting with my 2 heat deflectors, my X accessory rack, followed by my pizza stone. I just use an aluminum drip tray to keep things a little cleaner. Then my 2 cooking grates, and I'll close this back up and let all that heat through. Meanwhile, I pulled the tri-tips out of the fridge and let them start coming to room temperature for about 30 minutes. I'm going to get my meter thermometer into the thickest part of my bigger one. I'm going to set that to tri-tip cooking and set it to notify me at 115 degrees Fahrenheit. I want to leave plenty of room to sear it and keep it medium rare. And if I had a second meter, I would stick it in the other one to be completely precise, but you can probably get by with just measuring one. I do have this wired probe thermometer, so I'm going to put it in the other one just to be safe. And once I can get my grill to regulate to about 225 to 250 degrees Fahrenheit, it's ready to add the tri-tips. Just slap those babies on and let them go. We don't have to do any flipping or spritzing or any wrapping, nothing like that. We're just going to wait for them to come to temperature, which I was expecting this to take an hour or 2, but these were done within 40 minutes. Not ideal to impart a huge amount of smoke flavor, but it's going to make a difference. And when those were coming close to temperature, I opened my propane grill and lit the sear burners all the way on high. You could definitely sear these on the same grill, just remove the meat at temperature and light it to high. It's just my Big Joe is huge and would take a lot of fuel to do that, and I don't want to do that. Once those burners were ripping hot, I slapped the tri-tips on and let them cook for a minute, after which I just turned them a quarter turn to get those crosshatch grill marks. After another minute, I flip them and repeat on the other side for a total of 4 minutes of searing. If your grill is hot enough, that's all you'll need, and it'll reduce the chance of you overcooking the meat on the inside. I'm going to let those rest on a cutting board for at least 10 minutes so the juices can settle. These look absolutely incredible. That sear makes a huge difference, but you can still see that pink smoke all around the outside. The grain runs 2 ways on these, by the way, so at the tip part, we're just going to start cutting across. Beautiful medium rare, but once you get about halfway through, the grain is going to change directions. We'll cut longer strips here, just like a steak. Alternatively, you could just take a look at it before slicing, and like I said, you'll see that these grains on the bottom run down, whereas about halfway through, they're going to start running across, so where you see that switch, you can just cut them in half there. I served mine up with a couple of sides, and one of which is just Velveeta shells and cheese. It's an absolute classic, and if you judge me for eating it, that's okay. This is honestly better than most of the homemade mac and cheeses that I've ever had. The other side though is some oven roasted broccoli, which I'm going to quickly show you how I made. I just have about 4 crowns of broccoli, which I'm just going to cut the florets off. Once I have those florets, I'm going to start cutting those into smaller slivers. It's just going to increase surface area and give us some more crispy edges, which is the best part of these. I just leave the smaller ones whole, and I'm tossing all of this on a large baking sheet. I'm dousing them all over with a few tablespoons of olive oil, then some hefty pinches of salt, and a lot more freshly ground black pepper. You could just do garlic powder here, but I'm going to press through a couple of cloves of garlic for that fresh taste. Toss all this together and just make sure it's evenly coated. Do make sure that these are in a single layer and you're making as many flat sides touch the bottom of the tray as possible. That's going to maximize the Maillard reaction, which is the point of this recipe. Then all you have to do is throw this into a 400 Fahrenheit preheated oven. You don't have to touch it or flip it or do anything, just leave it there for 20 minutes. You'll get these beautifully charred broccoli bits, which are the most heavenly things that I've ever tasted. Check out that Maillard reaction. Beautiful. As a finishing touch, I'm hitting these with the zest and juice of about a half of a lemon, and then lots and lots of parmigiano reggiano grated over the top. Just gonna take these already tasty bits to the next level. Now I'm just plating up this simple meal with some sliced tri-tip and the mac and cheese and broccoli. Some flaky salt and or some lemon juice would be good on top of the slices of steak. I'm just using some of this Icelandic lava salt that I still have. A beautiful and humble meal. Any meat that comes off the smoker is going to be amazing. And this is the shortest recipe by far that I've done on my Big Joe. It's still worth it all the same. Let's get to the taste test.
That was a lot faster than I expected. Maybe could have infused a little more smoke flavor into the steak with a lower cooking temperature, but it came out wonderfully juicy and the inside pieces are a beautiful medium rare. I don't know if you can see that, but I think this can be a step up from steak, especially in the cost department. If you're trying to feed a family a steak dinner, this is a much more cost-effective option. Let's see if it sacrifices in any of the flavor and texture though. Cheers. Amazingly deep beef flavor, which makes sense because this comes from the sirloin part of the cow. So I will say it's not as fatty or rich as a ribeye, which is my personal favorite, but I wouldn't turn this down, again, especially for the cost. This broccoli too, looks amazing. Yeah, that's perfect. When you're making greens like this, you just have to take them past the point of being cooked through and get that really brown exterior on the outside. It's what takes these from just passable to great. And yeah, not my recipe for mac and cheese, but anyone who says they don't like this is just straight up lying. Come on, bro, that hits. So this might be a little harder to find. I've seen it at Sam's before, I think, but I bought this one at Costco, like I said. I don't quite know what I'm gonna do with 2 full tri-tips like this. I'll make some leftovers and figure it out. But what else do you wanna see me smoke on my Big Joe? I've done all the big things already in my opinion, and now I'm just trying to not run out of ideas and come up with other things to put on there. But that's gonna do it for me today. Thank you all for watching, be blessed, and I'll see you next time. Steak for breakfast for the rest of the week.
Moral of the story, make the ranch.